Hello and thank you for joining me. I'm Gregory and this is 1 in 20 D&D. Welcome to my weekly recap for the VÄRLDEN Reach, a 5e D&D campaign in which I play the bard Captain Jermaine Santo. This is session 22's recap and I have been a little bit reluctant to do this recap in all honesty because this was a really heavy session. And I will get right into why that is so. At the beginning of the session, we had made our way to Handle, and in the last session 21 we had done a little bit of poking around and talking and trying to find out maybe what had happened to Pyre's equipment and journal with not a whole lot of luck. We made a few contacts but really didn't get any good information. Well, we were kind of on our way back to the inn at the beginning of the session, and when we got back to the inn, the way we decided, we got 3 rooms. So Lily and Marana were sharing a room, Pyre and Perdita were sharing a room, and Jermaine was in a room by himself. So when Lily got back to the room with Marana, she asked if Marana would help her take care of something. Now, this was it was incredible the way this went down, because since the beginning of the game, Lily and Marana have been a little bristly towards each other. For some reason, Marana doesn't really seem to hold clerics in high regard, and for some reason, Lily was kind of terrified of Marana. But in the last few sessions, we've seen them kind of start to see eye to eye a little bit, start to kind of come together and find some common ground, and actually they seem to be starting to, I guess, trust each other. I mean, I'm not sure. It'd be really neat to get TBQ's and Tracy's perspective on where they think their character is at. That would be really fascinating, and I hope to do that. So, but just my own guess is that they're starting to warm to each other, and starting to, at the very least, starting to trust each other. You know, we've been in these situations where we've had to rely on each other, protecting each other, healing each other, etc. And on some level, just the fact that they both kind of grew up in Handle, they have this connection on some level, and I guess they both experienced hard childhoods, again, in different ways, but they both experienced that, so they sort of, I think they sort of understand each other a little bit, and at least that came out a lot in this session. So what Lily did is she asked Marana to go to the house where she was kept as a slave for 23 years, I think. 23 or 27. I think it was 23 years. Regardless, over 20 years. She was kept as a slave before getting freed or freeing herself, and then eventually joining the Vokter and becoming part of our crew, part of our team. So the two ladies kind of go out at night. Marana leaves a note on her bed. So nobody ever sees the note, but hey, it's there just in case, which was funny. Jermaine kind of had a little bit of something to say about that after the fact when he found out what went down. So they go and they have this moment where they're standing outside. Now, Pyre had given a coin with disguise self to Lily, so that if she was in a situation in the city where she felt uncomfortable, or she felt like she needed to kind of, like change her appearance or something, she could do it. So she was kind of fiddling with this coin, and inadvertently, or maybe on purpose, for some reason she changed her appearance to look like she did when she was 12 years old. And so we find out, I'm going to condense this and try to convey the emotional content of this whole, like, almost hour-long sequence. It was an amazing whole sequence and series of things that the two ladies went through, and she turns herself into this 12-year-old version when we find out. Okay, this is kind of player knowledge. I guess it sort of becomes, some of it becomes character knowledge, but some of the details are probably still fuzzy for Jermaine. But Gregory knows because he heard the whole thing. So so Lily is 12 years old and it's her birthday, and her dad takes her to this house. And she thinks like, well, this is kind of strange. Maybe I'm getting a present. Maybe it's like a music lesson or something. I don't know, because he just leaves her there, and she doesn't know what's going on. And then I'm going to spare you all the details, but I'm going to say it this way. For like the next 30 minutes, my heart was freaking breaking during the game. Because we come to find out that Lily she was taken downstairs into, let's call it the dungeon, into her room, shackled to this cot or bed or whatever. Her dress, her beautiful dress is torn. She's branded. She's the man who is now her master just treats her miserably, disgustingly, I want to say. He brands her, then he rapes her, and he like tortures her all night. Like, you're mine now, and this and that, and it's like just this horrendous beginning to a horrendous, again, 20 plus years. We find out that about a week later, she got a chance to free her. So she got free. Like she snuck out or something and tried to run away, but she barely got even like a block from the house before one of the city guard grabbed her and brought her back to the house. And come to find out that that's why about, again, a week later after that, or sometime after that, her brother got killed because she tried to run away. Or at the very least, that's what her master told her and, held over her head, and she still feels the guilt of over her. So she went there, I think, with the intention, and she sort of alluded to it, but I think she went there with the intention of possibly just like torching the house, because that's kind of her way, right? But then she goes through this whole emotional thing where she was telling all of this to Marana. She shared with Marana. She was kind of like bearing her soul to Marana. And they're just like in the street looking at this house, and she's kind of like gushing and opening up of like what. So she's like facing her again. So Jermaine thinks this is super cool. Gregory thinks it's very cool too, of course. But once Jermaine found out some of this, he thought it was great because she's like facing her demons, right? So she, oh my god, I wanted to scream and rage and cry and all shout and all of this the whole time. I kept quiet. I probably had myself muted the whole time because it was so intense, and I was afraid I would just interrupt or something. And I'm just like, again, my heart is just being torn out for like the next 20-30 minutes. She expresses all this to Marana. Marana, bless you, TBQ. You did so beautifully, handled the whole situation with her. And Lily, Tracy, just the way she shared all this information, again, almost as if it's a monologue or something, or if it's like in passing. But this time it was not. It was definitely her just directly like, this is what happened. They find, once she kind of expresses all this stuff and tells the story of what sort of happened, then she decides, she already starts feeling better. They don't really see it. There's like only like one light on in the house or something. So they kind of sneak around to the side because she needs to go in and see this room. She needs to make sure there's nobody. And Marana's like, well, what if there's somebody in there? And Lily's like, well, we're going to free them. Marana, like, what if there's another 12-year-old girl in there? Then she's coming with me, Lily says, or something like this. So it was just monumental and powerful. Lily, when she was 12, she snuck out of this grate, and so at first she's thinking she's gonna basically go back through the same route, but she realizes like, okay, you can't really do that because now you're an adult. Even though she's a gnome, so she's tiny, but she's still an adult. She's wearing like a breastplate and armor, and anyway, she's not this skinny little tiny child anymore. And Marana kind of looked at her like, there's a little bit of a size difference here. I'm not sure I could squeeze through the same grate you could. So there was a little bit of lightheartedness through this, if you can believe it. But they realize like, okay, maybe that's not the way we're gonna get in. And they see the cook, the cook of the house he's like in the kitchen or whatever. And Lily reveals that he was actually the only person in the household because like everyone, there was like maybe 4 or 5 people in the household, the man, the wife, and like some servants and stuff, and everybody in the household treated Lily like crap. They abused her, they did that. We find out that basically, I guess basically Lily was being pimped for like all this time because who wouldn't want, I guess, to have some little take a gnome. It like makes my skin crawl even sharing. Again, I was dreading doing this recap because it's so gnarly, but it was so awesome at the same time. It was super intense, and now we get to understand why Lily is like so distrustful, so kind of sort of paranoid, so like angry all the time. She shared that with everyone. That's exactly why she asked Marana to come, because Marana is like the most level-headed in the group, so why not bring Marana? Because she can kind of keep her cool and maybe keep me from going nuts, right? That was, I think, Lily's logic, or her hope and wish, or what have you. So Lily reveals that this cook, was the only person in the house that kind of was nice to her. He never revealed any, like, he kept all her secrets, so to speak. He apparently had some contacts in the Thieves Guild, and so I'm kind of curious about that. It was like, was he her route into the Thieves Guild, or maybe her inspiration for, because Lily is a multi-class level 1 rogue and level 6 cleric, so 6, 7, no, level 7 cleric, I guess, level 8, something like that. Anyway, she's multi-class, but she only has 1 level in rogue, and she was a rogue first and then became a cleric. So I'm really curious about that. Gregory is really curious about that. Jermaine knows nothing of any of this. So the cook puts out the light and leaves the room. They wait a little bit, and then they sneak in the house. They go down to the room, and they find that this is kind of creepy, but also very interesting. They find the room like exactly the way it was when she left. Now, we've kind of learned through some of her discussion with us and some of her prayers and dreams and all this, so there's a little bit of player knowledge and character knowledge mixed in here, but we've sort of found that she killed her master, or framed her brother for killing it, or her brother killed him, and I'm still a little unclear on some of these details. And Jermaine is, of course, as well. So, but something happened where her master got killed, and that's how she got away. And apparently, since that day, no one has touched this room. It's like 3 years have passed, and there's like 3 years of dust when they go in there. The manacles are still there, the cot's still there, there's nobody in the room, and so again, so she has this sense of relief when she kind of opens her heart and shares the story. She feels better already. Then they go down into this room. She sees that nobody else has been tortured and treated the way she was, so that gives her a bigger sense of relief. And, so Marana the whole time is like, Marana was just, TVQ was awesome with this. Marana was just, she has this really beautiful way of playing Marana so succinctly, so clean, so perfect, like all the time. And I absolutely love it. So she was just this perfect sounding board for Lily. She kind of was like, not really steering Lily in any direction one way or the other, except for one moment of like saying like, maybe we shouldn't go through the front gate. Let's maybe look for a side gate. Aside from that, she's just like, what do you want to do next? Okay, what do you want to do next, essentially? And it was brilliant. They're like, so Mara's like, what do you need to, do you need to torch this? I mean, she's not going to stop her. She's just like, is this the best decision? Is this what you really want? Will it help? Kind of little things like that. And Lily basically decides that no, she's okay. She can now that she knows that it's not being used, and that's enough. That's all she needed. But she takes the manacles, which I thought was awesome. So then the two gals, they leave the house and kind of start heading home, and by the time they're like over the bridge, almost getting back to the inn where we're all staying, the disguise self has kind of worn off at this point. And again, Marana and Lily shared a lot in this, in the sense that, like, again, Lily totally confided in her. And I think if I understand right, aside, so T apparently knows, that's Elder Torin, apparently knows the whole story, right? So, like, he is her mentor, right? So, and I believe that Tracy has told us that T is the only person that knows the whole story. But now Marana has gotten this big insight into who Lily is and what her deal is and all that. So that was awesome. So they make it back to the hotel, or to the inn, and go to sleep. And that night, again, the whole thing was just heartbreaking for Gregory. And if Jermaine knew about it, we had a discussion at breakfast, which I'll get to now. So they sleep. Lily has a dream sequence, right? And essentially, Ayuz, her deity, comes to her in this dream and is like, I'm proud of you, Lily. You showed incredible restraint, and I want to give you a gift. And he offers to take away her scars. And she's like, no. And one of the coolest things that Marana had said to Lily the whole time is that she saw all these scars. She knows that she has the scars, but when she was a little child, the scars were all gone, right? So she says to Lily, she says, you survived. Those people were all assholes. Every one of them. Your father, the man, all those people are assholes. You didn't kill your brother, because she's holding this incredible guilt about her brother, right? You didn't kill your brother. Those assholes killed your brother. That asshole killed your brother. And the coolest thing I felt like from this whole thing that she said, I mean, the whole sequence was amazing, but one of the awesome things that Marana said was that the scars are like your badges, your badges of survival. And so Lily kind of set well with her. She liked that like felt right to her. So when Ayu said, I can take away your scars, she's like, no, I don't want to do that. But, and he says, how about the brand that marks her as a slave? And she's like, yeah, you can get rid of that. So sure enough, he does. There's like this tingling, and she wakes up, and it was awesome because Marana had Ku, since they're in the same room, Marana had Ku sleep with Lily, kind of like sleep next to Lily, right, to comfort her or something. And Marana found out that Lily sleeps on the floor for sort of obvious reasons. She's not too keen on beds. So, because of all the horrible memories associated with sleeping in or being in a bed, right, or being chained to a bed, etc. And after she snuck out the first time, one thing we found out is at that point they chained her up at night. So from then on, after she snuck out and was returned, she got chained up every night. And so just brutal, horrible. It was like so terrible to hear this story, but at the same time so powerful and incredible. And moving. I was almost in tears. It was really painful and challenging for me to hear the story. And it's all make-believe. We're playing a freaking game. And I was like, that's how good these players that I am blessed to get to share time with and our DM are each week, right? So they get back to the room. Lily has this vision. She wakes up and the brand is gone. And she goes over and looks in a mirror to make sure, to like check, and it's gone. And so she's like, run. It's like way early. It's probably like 5, 6 in the morning, right? Run. Look, it's gone. Look, it's gone, right? It's gone, right? So she's kind of having this little freak out. She wakes up at a reasonable time, but like she's not, we've seen that Marana is not a morning person, it seems. Like messed up hair, kind of like bleary eyed, like what, huh? What? And then she's like, it's your shoulder. Because she's like, look. Yes, okay, that's your shoulder. No, look, the brand, is it there? It's gone, right? It's gone. I don't see a brand. so Lily then goes tearing out into the hallway, like freaking out, running to Perdita's room and Perdita Empire. And so she's like, Perdita, knocking on the door. To which, of course, Jermaine, now he's in his room. He gets up, or he's a pretty early. Perdita and Jermaine have gotten into a routine of like, kind of sort of get up with the sun and do their, get themselves together and then go and do their morning routine of drills and sword practice and so forth, right? So this has gotten to be their routine over the last month or two. And so they both get up pretty early, and so Jermaine was I figure he was kind of like up in his room. Here's this going on. He's like, pokes his head out in the hallway, like, is everything okay? What's going on? And he's Lily, basically in her night clothes. She's like half naked, practically naked. It's like freaking out in the hallway, like, Perdita, look, it's gone. The brand, it's gone. And Perdita's like, well, that's great. Jermaine is like, that's incredible. Now, Jermaine he was in the military for 10 years, right? So Jermaine is kind of like, and I have just chosen, I didn't really discuss this with Mark, but it just, for me, I chose to make it that the military was composed of men and women, okay? Because for me, I think that's the way it should be. So for me, I figured if mercenaries can do it, why wouldn't they do it in the army? It's a progressive army or something. Anyway, so Jermaine was in the army. He's okay with like nakedness. He doesn't have an issue with it. For him, it's like no big deal. And here's this beautiful, she's scarred, but she's still beautiful, right? So there's this beautiful little gnome, darn near naked, bouncing around. And I imagine she was literally bouncing around in the hallway, like having this little freak out happy moment, happiest we've ever seen her. And this is what that was all that mattered to Jermaine, is like, she is smiling and beaming and radiant and like totally joyful. And so Jermaine is like, this is awesome, what happened, what's going on? And she's like, oh, look, my brand, it's gone. So she freaks out and is having this moment, and Jermaine's like, all right, cool, that's fantastic, maybe we should discuss what happened. Oh no, wait, because like at some point it comes out that like last night this happened, and like where finds out maybe that they were gone or something, and something happened. We went to the house, and then I didn't burn down the house, and because I didn't burn down the house, I took away my brand, right? And so she's like, okay. Jermaine's like, okay, maybe we should go downstairs and discuss this over breakfast, and perhaps you should put on some clothes because there are other patrons, in the inn, and maybe not everybody wants to see a half-naked gnome running around hallways. So it was quite fun and charming. We go downstairs and we have this breakfast, and that's when we kind of find out what happened the previous evening, and which Perdita and Jermaine are both kind of like, okay, and why didn't you tell us this? To which, of course, it absolutely is like, because you wouldn't let me. She's like, to Perdita, she's like, you wouldn't let me go, and Jermaine can't keep his cool, which I can. And actually, Marana said something over breakfast, which really kind of got Jermaine's goat, about Jermaine not being able to she basically called him a terrible liar. Which Jermaine is like, what do you mean I'm a terrible liar? Every time I try to like cover us or make up a story, I'm just having terrible luck. And he's like, it's all of you. You all make my like okay, back at the dock, right? We're in the dock in Orison, and trying to talk to the dockmaster. Jermaine is trying to like schmooze with the dockmaster, and Alina just like jumps right in and like totally blows the whole thing, right? Oh, okay. And then Jermaine makes this joke about like like way back. We're talking like session 1, session 2. No, this would have been like session 2 or 3, when they were right before they confronted the Rakshasa. They were in the den of ill repute, and Jermaine is trying to be kind of like casual and whatever, and he had to kind of portray himself as like he's there to get laid, and Marana's in the room with him, and he's like, look, you were there, and it was uncomfortable, it was awkward, and I just, anyway, so it was funny. I felt that was fun for me. The rest of the game, I was actually kind of chill. I wanted to just kind of sit back. Like once things went down with Lily, Jermaine, we were just I was kind of like, all right, Jermaine's going to be kind of chill in this whole time. Obviously when I wasn't even there, or when he wasn't even there, I was just listening as quietly as I can. But even when Jermaine was involved in the story for this session, I just felt like taking a little bit of a backseat for some reason during the game Saturday. So that was kind of fun for me, aside from that one little interchange with Marana. So we find out what happened. We're all thrilled for Lily, first and foremost. I mean, it's a miracle, right, for her character, right? So we're all thrilled for her. We have this discussion. We're like, all right, what do we do now? Should we keep going after Pyre stuff, or do we probably need to go to which is our main mission, the reason we're in Handle. We need to go to the Temple of Ayuz and see what corruption is going down. So I'm going to summarize the last bit as quickly as I can, because this stuff was more just actual gameplay stuff. There was not a whole lot of role-playing, little bits, but mostly it was a lot of like interacting with the environment and so forth. And then we had some combat at the end. So we go to the Temple of Ayuz. We kind of sort of sneak in again. Marana is concerned about being seen. She's afraid she'll kind of blow our cover or make difficulty for us if somebody recognizes her. So Jermaine's like, well, I can make you invisible if you want. It lasts for an hour. Nobody has to see you at all, which worked out great because it allowed her, while we were in the temple, to really scout around a lot and kind of like check out different areas that we maybe weren't supposed to be in. Lily portrayed herself as someone from Unity who just happened to stop in to check out the church and volunteer to help out. And so we don't find, we're looking for the bad guy, and now I have to check for his name. Oh my goodness. Why am I not remembering his name? Sorry, please bear with me for just a moment. I should have this remembered, but I don't. We're looking for... come on. This is the worst. I should have paused it, but you gotta bear with me here. We're looking for Rodrigo. So we're looking for Rodrigo, who is this corrupt head of the Temple of Ayuz. He says, or he's not there, but his aide is. And Marana kind of whispers to us through our new jewelry that kind of gives us this telepathic link. She says, hey, that's Rodrigo's aide. So Lily goes and talks to him and basically makes this lie about like why she's there. Paradis and Jermaine are kind of just sitting in a pew in the back, being quiet. Courtney was actually out for the first 3/4 or half of the session, almost 3/4, 2/3 of the session. So we sort of were saying Pyra wasn't with us. But essentially Pyra was along for the ride, I guess, and she was just sitting quietly with us. So Marana and Lily were really doing the scouting. This whole session was really big time, like Marana and Lily's time to shine, and it was really fun to watch them interact and do their whole thing, and they were both pretty effective too, which was cool, until Lily decides that she's going to blast because the aide kind of got a little snippy with her and basically like, you're not supposed to be here, get out of here, and she blasted him with a firebolt and killed him because he's an aide. He's just a peasant. He's not like an adventurer or some tough guy or something. He's just this wimpy little aide. And then she casts Spare the Dying, so he's not actually gonna die. He's just unconscious. So we're all like, oh my goodness. So meanwhile, between Lily and Marana, they had managed to snoop out the whole layout of this temple. They found a desk. They found some ledgers. They found Marana found 3 ledgers that actually give us the evidence we need to prove that Rodrigo is in fact corrupt and basically cooking the books. And what it appears to be is that they're laundering money through the temple. And Marana knows that he was corrupt because her adoptive parents were in cahoots with him for years and years and years. So it seems like at least 2 members of the tribunal in Handle, as well as obviously other power players in Handle, are apparently running money through the temple, through Rodrigo. And the temple is in disrepair. It looks like crap, and it's like, well, what's going on? Where's all this money going, right? Well, Marana found it. She actually found a secret door. She used her trinket and has true seeing. She's been looking around, not finding anything. And then finally she's in an area of the basement. She sees the outline of a secret door, and she goes through there and finds this big ass pile of treasure, right? And I'm sure there was coins and trinkets and all kinds of, there might be art or what have you. She finds this and she's just about to kind of look a little closer. This was before she found the journals. So she's looking and she's just about to look closer, and then the only way to describe it is a treasure golem kind of forms up in front of her, like all this coin and stuff starts coalescing into the rough shape of a humanoid, large humanoid, and she's like, okay, and so she checks out of there. She's like, I'm not gonna fight you. She leaves the room and closes the door behind her. And like, well, we can go back to that later. Again, then she finishes sneaking around. They deal with the aid. And then they find the journals. Okay, we're like, okay, we better get out of here. This is crazy. We just kind of killed someone, and he's gonna wake up, and who knows what he's gonna remember or think. We need to run. That was Pyre. Pyre's like, we should run. Let's get out of here. So we're on our way out of the temple, and who comes in? Of course, we knew it was gonna happen eventually, but Rodrigo walks through the doors. Now, the invisibility had just kind of worn off on Marana. And who else comes in with Rodrigo but her adoptive parents' bodyguards? They're twins. They're kind of like, they sort of look albino, but I don't know if they're albino. They're like pale white twins, bodyguards, and they happen to be with Rodrigo. So madness ensues, and guess what? Another reason that Gregory, was kind of quiet through this session is that right off the bat, Jermaine gets dominated. I failed. I rolled a 1 on my wisdom save and failed. Great story. It's 1 in 20 D&D for a reason. I love 1s just as much as I love 20s. Failed the save. Got dominated. Proceeded to eventually kill Lily. So Jermaine is just like freaking out the whole time. And Lily is like, it's okay, Jermaine. It's okay. And Jermaine is just like beside himself because he has basically lost all control, can't do anything. He's attacking Lily, he's attacking Pyre. This was a brutal fight. Perdita went down, she very nearly went down, I think. Did she go down? Oh gosh, now I'm forgetting. But anyway, let's say she goes down or darn near down, and Lily goes down, and Marana's, because she sees Perdita getting just pounded by the 2 bodyguards, her wings come out because she's starting to get all freaked out or what have you. It was just a brutal fight, especially with Jermaine being out for the count. Eventually, Rodrigo decides he's going to go. It was a cool opening move. So Perdita's cool move for the night, she opened combat by charging Rodrigo and grappling him, and it worked. It was cool. She actually had him grappled for like 3 rounds, and she's just like taking hits from these 2, they guess they're monks, right? They had these like monk moves, these open hand techniques, shadow monks or something. They're just like pounding on poor Perdita. So yeah, it was brutal. Pyre tried to like shoot. Pyre shot some fire at Jermaine to try to like snap him out of it, and he failed his save again. So yeah, Jermaine was just useless, worthless through the whole fight. So we ended the session with poor Jermaine, like on the ground next to Lily, like dumping healing into Lily, saying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I can't believe I did that. It's just like, yeah, after hearing what happened to her, and this was a very emotional session for Gregory. I had a hard time this week, and it was a ton of fun. All right, that I think that kind of wraps up everything I need to share about my thoughts for session 22. What a blast! I hope you enjoyed this craziness and this journey through the mind of Gregory more so than Jermaine, because Jermaine was kind of out of it for most of this. I mean, he's very happy for Lily, but he was also very shocked to find out what happened to her, like find out some of the details of like what's going on for her. Anyway, it was awesome. I can't wait. Again, Saturday can't come soon enough. So thank you, Mark, for running a great game for us each week. Thank you to my fantastic co-players or teammates, however you want to call them, the other players in the game. You're all fantastic. And we're just having such a blast each week. So Saturday, please, as fast as possible. I'll see you at a table someday. And, ones. Have fun with the ones. I do. I did. This was a great example of where a one can just make a outrageous and challenging story point and at the same time be tons of fun. But, of course, as I always say, thanks for stopping by. And, keep rolling 20s.